What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber, and we have Noah Lofman in the house today. We're going to be talking a little bit of college basketball since Sheets and I we're sort of have veered away from college basketball, where we I think both of us. I know I used to spend all my time on college basketball, but it's probably been about 6 years, 7 years for me at least. And Noah, good to have you here, and yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you about this stuff.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this tournament. Best time of the year. We waited 2 years for this, so
it's been a long one. I mean, that's
So Noah, I'm trying to see again. I'm just looking through the bracket for the first time. So you're at UNC, right? So are they a 1 or a 2 seed this year? They're usually a 1 or a 2. I have to kind of see. Oh wow! So they're at least they made the tournament. That's pretty good, right?
I was gonna say, I mean, the team 15 minutes away in Durham is not in the tournament, and that's all that matters.
You know what? It's true. That's true. I used to have, I used to have a T-shirt. My favorite teams are the Yankees and whoever the Red Sox are playing.
So I had the same one with UCLA. It was about USC, whoever USC is playing. It's interesting. I'm watching my Bruins are at 11 seed playing Michigan State. This is how different college basketball is for me. Like I'm not using UCLA, Michigan State as an 11 seed in a play-in game. That sort of threw me out there. Some of the big names are just not the same thing. And my local team though, my UCSB Gauchos are made it this year, so that's going to be kind of fun. Noah, well, let's start it off like just with any specific games that might stand out to you from the first. I mean, I guess it would have to be just the first round, but if you had what you thought was a pretty decisive second round. And then we'll get into some upsets, some sleepers, and then who you'd like to win the tournament.
So you're talking about who's going to win, or are you talking about whatever you want to talk about, Noah? You want to talk about good spread picks? Because I remember growing up that literally it was like Christmas morning, like the first day of the NCAA tournament, that Thursday and Friday, I would bet that would be like my favorite betting card of like the whole season. When it came to betting against the spread, I was never really into like the picking the brackets and stuff until I was always into the spread stuff. Whatever you want to talk about, Noah. I mean, what are your opinions on the tournament? What are your opinions on the first round? What do you got?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree. This is a bettor's dream, the tournament. And I think, first of all, I'm going to say that the 8-9s this year, I think are one of the best groups of 8-9 seeds I've ever seen. And I just have this gut feeling based on how much talent these 8-9 seeds have that one of them will knock off one of those top seeds in the second round.
Let me think. What's UNC? What's their seed again?
UNC, I'd throw in the mix there. I mean, they have a tough first round matchup against Wisconsin, really conflicting styles. UNC dominates with their bigs. They're a very old school team that doesn't shoot a lot of threes. They have multiple players over 7 feet tall, and Wisconsin doesn't have anyone to guard those guys. But on the flip side, UNC struggles with their guards defending dynamic guards on the other team, and Wisconsin is a great shooting team with some dynamic scoring guards. So I don't know who's going to win that matchup, but I think either team poses a threat to Baylor in the next round.
Let me ask you this way. This is like a bracket question. So let's get right to it. So which seed 11 or higher is like the most live in the first round? Like give me some live 11 seeds and higher.
Yeah, I think the winner of Wichita State Drake poses a threat for USC. Drake has an injury, so Wichita State probably is going to win that play-in game, but I think they're a dangerous 11 seed. I think a Georgetown as a 12 seed is really interesting. They just went on a massive run to win the Big East tournament when nobody expected them to be in this NCAA tournament, but they're playing a solid Colorado team. But I think Georgetown and Wichita State would be the higher seeds I look out for.
That is, except for our mutual friend, right? Who had them at 90-1, right?
Yes, our friend Steve did have them at 90-1 to win the Big East tournament. He bet them, I believe, when they started off 3-8 on the year. So really, really impressive bet.
Wow, that's tremendous. I like it. Yeah, so I'm not hearing my UCSB Gauchos in here at all. I would love to hold out some hope for this team that they can once win a tournament game. They've made it a few times since I've been around here, but they never seem to quite get there. I play with these guys. I used to play with these guys all the time, so it's kind of personal for me. But you don't think they have any chance, huh?
No, I actually do. I think they're playing a Creighton team that's in a bit of a disarray right now. Their coach said some controversial comments that he caused himself to be suspended for a game, and people thought he was going to leave the program entirely. So Creighton's a talented team, but I think if you take into account all those extra variables that could cause them to not be as focused and locked in as some of these other teams, then your squad definitely has a shot.
I love it. And especially I'd like to get after him for some of his comments. So then I have even more reason to root for UCSB. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So, game by, is there any game that stands out to you from whether it's a spread bet, whether it's something that you like in the first round, or do you want to get straight to who we like to sort of advance?
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about who I'll advance. I'll throw out one spread bet that I like. I think Clemson over Rutgers. It's a close spread right now, depending on the book. I believe I still saw Rutgers favored as of today. I think Clemson's the better team. I think Rutgers has struggled, especially lately, and I like Clemson to win that game outright.
I like that. All right. And then for the overall tournament, like I again treat it like I haven't paid any attention this year. Who is the actual favorite to win it all? Who are the favorites for the Final Four? Other than, I mean, I'm sure the one seeds are for the most part, but who is sort of the favorites that maybe some of your favorites to advance, and then we can talk about some sleepers to make some runs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a year similar to the 2014 Kentucky season when they went undefeated going into the NCAA tournament. So a lot of people feel like Gonzaga, who's undefeated going into this tournament, is in a similar spot. So there's people out there that are saying Gonzaga are the field. They think it's that they have that big of an advantage over the other teams. I think certainly their region doesn't pose much of a threat. I think they're a lock for the Final Four. But we see what happens when these undefeated teams enter the NCAA tournament. It's we saw what happened to Kentucky. They didn't end up winning at all. They didn't even end up making the championship game. So Gonzaga is the consensus favorite. But like I said, I'd watch out because they haven't lost a game yet, and it's really, really tough to go undefeated.
Absolutely. Yeah. How many? So in terms of the games they played this year, how many were they? Did they end up playing like a full schedule?
Yeah, they played a lot of games. Early on, they played some really tough teams. They beat Virginia. They beat Kansas. They beat Iowa, I believe. So actually a lot of teams that are in their region, they've already beat. But then after that, they play in a pretty weak conference. BYU's pretty good. They're a 6th seed in this tournament. And they won their conference tournament in a pretty exciting way against BYU. They had to come back. So I would say the biggest complaint or hesitation people have with Gonzaga right now is just that strength of schedule and that they don't play in a tough conference.
Makes a lot of sense.
So let me ask you, if you want to win one of these bracket pools, that's what everybody wants to do, these bracket things, is the way you win it. Remember, you're probably going against a lot of people, right? So do you win it by getting someone different in the Final Four than everybody else, or do you just kind of like just kind of snipe some good 8 versus 9s along the way and maybe get a 5 over a 12 over a 5? Or is it like throwing money away to play like 6 seeds to go to the Final Four, for example, in general? Or is it like, how do you, in DFS, you say, how do you get different? Like, how do you get off the chalk sort of, but play well enough to win these things?
That's a great question. And I think most people use the page that I'm on right now, which is ESPN Tournament Challenge. And the way that this site works, or this tournament, is that each round is out of 320 points. So for example, if you get a round 1 game correct, you're only getting 10 points for that win. But let's say you pick the champion correct, you're getting 320 points for just picking that champion, and you're getting all those points up until the championship game as well. So I've actually won 2 very large pools in the last few years. And I did that because I picked a champion that nobody else in the pool took, and that team won it all. So that's my strategy going into this, is everyone's going to take Gonzaga. I think a lot of people are going to take Illinois too. But if you really want to build a bracket that guarantees you a win, where you're kind of all or nothing, where you don't have to worry about those earlier rounds, where you actually don't even have to worry about getting that many Elite 8 teams correct, you got to find a team that is good, but also that one that no one's going to take.
I like that point a lot. I've won a bunch of, I used to do really, really well in all the 100-person pools and things like that. But I had one shot at it was a long time ago. You could enter one time and you go for the $1 million pool. And it was back, I think it was Maryland and Indiana in the finals. But Indiana upset at one of Duke, one of the great teams of all time. And I ended up finishing whatever. I had one win off. I went 30 of 32 in the first round. The other guy was 31 of 32. But there was only like a few of us in there, and I ended up in a tie. There were 7 guys tied for first, and I was the tie for 8th. So got nothing out of it instead of the $1 million they gave to first. But it was a really fun, nice little deep run there.
Let me throw out there. I'm gonna list the top 8 teams from seeds, right? So we're gonna say Gonzaga, Iowa, Michigan, Alabama, Houston, Illinois, Baylor, and Ohio State. Which one of them gets knocked out first?
Ooh, I would watch out for Michigan. One of their best players is hurt, and it looks like he's probably not coming back for this tournament. And if he does, it wouldn't be till that second week. LSU was a tip in away from beating a very good Alabama team in the SEC championship. They're physical, they're well coached. Even St. Bonaventure, if they get out of that round, could give Michigan a run for their money. And then if Michigan does get past that second round, I think Florida State beats them. I think this Florida State team is destined for the Final Four. They're super deep. They have NBA talent. They play phenomenal defense. They can shoot the three ball lights out. So I think Michigan is the first one of those top teams to lose.
Now, again, I didn't ask you these ahead of time. So if some of this surprises you, I'm sure you've looked at enough to at least answer this one intelligently. So in my experience, there's always one team, maybe two. I mean, maybe sometimes more than two. That's like a 10 or 11 or higher that wins 2 games. Okay. That makes to the final 16. And in my uneducated opinion, like that's the one you need, like to win the pool. You know what I mean? Like you need to get some 10 or 11 seed, the one that makes the final 16. What teams fit that bill? Like who can get those 2 wins?
I would look at Syracuse. They have a tough first round matchup, but history tells us that Jim Boeheim does really well in March, especially when he's a higher seed. They actually had to play a play-in game a few years ago as an 11 seed and made the Final Four.
That's right.
So I would watch out for Syracuse for sure.
Yeah, that matchup zone does seem to throw fits to teams who have never seen it before. And I'm guessing that they still play a matchup zone because I've never seen Jim Boeheim do anything else. So
yep, same
well,
zone.
By the way, the reason why this is like a basketball, and the reason why it's hard. It's not that no one else plays it. It's not that they play it any better, but he literally recruits for it. Like he recruits these big guards with these long arms, right, you know, that can basically hold the gym up, you know, if they stand side to side. Right. So it's not as if, you know, that no one knows how to play zone offense. It's not like does anything different. He literally recruits out of high school for that exact situation.
Yeah, they always have the long teams, and I mean, I remember so many guys throughout the years like that fit that mold. That makes a lot of sense. Syracuse always seems like the team that gets upset early. So if they're a high seed, like whatever, and but then they always make a huge run as like a 3 or 4 seed. All right, who else have we got here? So if you had to, and I'm guessing have you filled out any brackets yet, or you still sort of you wait the guy who waits to the last minute?
No, I've been filling some brackets out and thinking about some things. Like I said a couple minutes ago, when I'm looking at when I'm in a big pool, I'm trying to find that team that I think nobody's going to pick but still has a shot. And you don't really need to take them all the way if you don't want to, but I would say you at least got to put a team in the Final Four that you think that nobody else is going to pick that you feel strongly about. And for me this year, that's Houston.
So Houston, Houston is a 2 seed. That's correct?
Yeah, Houston's a 2 seed in the Midwest region. Illinois is the 1 on that side. And the reason I like Houston is because they can win without shooting the ball well, which sounds surprising because it seems like in basketball, you have to make shots to win. But they rank pretty low in 3-point shooting percentage, pretty low in 2-point shooting percentage. But they have ran teams off the court all year. And the reason is second chance points and great defense. They're super physical. They have an unbelievable offensive rebounding percentage, so they get second chance points, and those are easy buckets. But defensively, they really have an aggressive post trap, which is like probably the most aggressive post trap in the country. So they force bigs to make these cross-court passes and find the open guy in the corner for a 3. So if you watch Houston, you'll see the guy guarding the weak side corner is going to come over and help double the post, and he's going to be wide open in the corner. But because this is college basketball and these bigs aren't as skilled as NBA bigs, that pass when you're double teamed in the corner or double teamed and passing to the corner is almost impossible for all these bigs. So I just think Houston's style fits well in March.
There used to be these narratives like that especially in the first round, the teams that were shooting reliant might have a problem because they're used to playing in these smaller gyms, and then when they go to these big stadiums, like the sight lines are like all different and stuff like that. Is there any truth to that? Is that kind of what you were alluding to with the team not needing to shoot well or something like that, or is that not even the case anymore?
I think you're absolutely right. And that's why I don't like picking teams that are really relying on the three ball. I mean, look, I think when Villanova just dominated the tournament a few years ago and won it all, they were just shooting lights out. And that can happen. But in general, I think, as you said, especially with this tournament having some big stadiums and having very limited fans, and you could be shooting into, an empty row of seats. I think you want to look at a team like Houston or Florida State that's just got that physical nature that can win in multiple ways than just knocking down threes.
Speaking of which, what about my son's school? What do you think of the quote unquote defending champions?
They are the defending champs. They're an interesting team because they have some COVID issues right now. So
Yep.
I'm hearing that they won't be able to get like a practice in, or maybe just one practice in before their game. So that scares me a bit. And then I think they also would meet Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. And I just can't see them getting past that matchup. But I could see them definitely making the Sweet 16. But I would say I would watch out for Ohio just because of, like I said, the limited practice for Virginia in round one.
Well, it would seem as though, I mean, you say this every year, and every year you think that it could be a year that it's not, littered with upsets. They just always are, just because I guess because of the way the NBA steals the players now. I mean, just the difference between the mid majors and the majors is so small. That's why you get these Loyola Chicago's that they can come out of nowhere and just play, not even just sneak up on you, just play better, and just have like some good players. But especially this year with like very little, I mean, I imagine much less practice than normal, just much less anything, just puts just that much more variance into the whole tournament. I'm not saying that I know better than anybody, but I would not be surprised if like some crazy stuff happens. Like I don't know, from Houston or whatever, but like the first times I look at these things, I'm like, okay, Cleveland State, whoever they are, they're winning. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that I'm telling you, there's going to be, this is my opinion, there's going to be some two that just loses. And I don't even know who it's going to be, or some 14 that goes 2 games, just because the overall variance this season is even worse than normal,
For sure.
So let me ask you, you mentioned that, and I'm trying to think about the psychology of this, like in case I want to like play a bracket, I want to take like kind of low owned guys that have a chance. So for me, has Gonzaga ever actually won the whole thing?
No, they made the national championship in
Right.
2017 and lost to North Carolina.
So they're not, it's not going the other way. Like people are not saying, well, Gonzaga is just, they're overrated and they're just not going to win, or they're, you know what I mean? Or are people still, is that still going to be the number 1 owned team to win the championship?
I think for sure they're going to be the number 1 team.
Okay.
And a lot of people feel like this Gonzaga team is just way more talented than any other team they've had.
Okay.
Yeah, it's they're loaded. That Suggs kid. The only thing I know about it, that Suggs kid is for real. He's going to be a superstar in the NBA.
All right, this is what we need then. So how many? What do you want? 2 against the spread picks, Bobby?
Yeah, let's get 2 against the spread picks. Sure.
Yeah, he's entitled to 2, and we each get 1.
Wait. I don't want to do 2.
No, you get no one gets 2.
Yeah.
And you get 1, and I get 1.
That makes sense.
Okay, so I'm looking at an 8-9 matchup again. I'm like in Oklahoma. I believe it's -2. I don't know if that line's moved at all. I think the Sooners are a dangerous 8 seed. I hate that they have to play Gonzaga round 2, but they're an interesting team because they have some great wins. They beat Alabama this year when Oklahoma was missing 2 of their best players. They struggled at the end of the season a bit, but every one of those losses was close. I think Missouri is a bit overrated. They come from an SEC conference that was pretty weak this year. So I'm going Oklahoma to win by more than 2 as one of my picks.
I like that. Sheets.
Well, I have 1, and this is, I mean, I just can't imagine this losing. And my incredible deep dive, as usual with my sports betting picks. So Texas is playing Abilene Christian, and I don't know who the hell Abilene Christian is, but if the spread is like only 9, so they got to have something. So I'm taking Abilene Christian plus the 9.
Oh.
No joke, that was going to be my second. I have more bets, but I actually think that's a great bet, and I would look at that line there. I mean, Abilene Christian, I think, has lost 3 games all year. that's a very dangerous first round matchup for Texas.
There it is.
I like that actually. That's good stuff. I'm just gonna be the hometown guy and say I guess I would decide between the UCLA and UCSB, because of the recent thing. I'll take UCSB. I think they're +6 against Creighton. I was thinking UCLA +2 against Michigan State. Those are the two I would like.
Is Doug McDermott still on the team?
It's his coach. His dad is the coach, right?
Is he really?
Yeah,
and he also,
Greg.
he's in hot water right now for some statements. He's getting borderline canceled over here.
I was going to take Cleveland State, but I think Olajuwon's going to be rough on the other side. So I don't know.
Isn't that weird how we look like that? So, all right. So Noah, give us one more if you have any other one that you like to do. I guess you mentioned that other one that the sheets mentioned.
Nah, he can come up with
yeah, and
something.
I think I mentioned Clemson at the beginning.
Yeah.
Another one I would look at. You know what? I'll throw in, this will be fun. We got the play-in games coming up. And I think, if you have a bet on a game, people are going to be more inclined to watch, even if it's 2 16 seeds. But we talked about our friend Steve. He's kind of like the expert on these random small schools like Texas Southern. And he said Texas Southern's the best 16 seed in this tournament, and they still have to play a play-in game. I think they're only a 1-point favorite or a 1-point dog. So near pick 'em. Let's ride with Texas Southern and give our fans something to watch on Thursday. I think Thursday.
I love it.
All right, I'm going to give one too. Are these guys actually in the tournament?
Who?
SUNY Buffalo against Colorado State?
No, that's an NIT game.
Oh, okay, forget it.
That would have been pretty wild. I was like, wow.
But Buffalo's a lot, whoever they are.
Yeah, the NIT bet. I would have pictured Steve betting more on the NIT actually, because that's.
Oh, he does. He actually loves the NIT.
Oh my God, it's hilarious to me. It's so hilarious. All right, so let's talk about. Okay, so we talked about the things. From what
wait. You know what? I do have one more. I'm sorry.
Well, go for it.
It goes along. You know what? It goes along the lines with the Abilene Christian, both from a religious standpoint and from whatever. Oklahoma State is playing Liberty, and I actually once taught at Liberty Law School there, and that's was part owned by I think it was by Pat Robertson. No, is it Pat Robertson or Jerry Fall? I forget. Like one of the real religious right people over there, and it was like one of the more ridiculous experiences I've ever had in my life. Spread's only 7.5 though. They've got to have something, so I'm taking Liberty over Oklahoma State. And
you're betting against the future #1 pick, the guy who will be the #1 pick next year, Cade Cunningham. Everybody's been talking. This is the guy everybody wants.
Oh, even better then. Even better. Beautiful.
Yes, there you go.
Absolutely.
It's his favorite way of getting contrarian. I love it. All right, so let's talk. So from what I gathered, if I'm filling out a bracket without knowing anything from what you were saying, I definitely would look like, so Houston, Florida State, Gonzaga sound like a reason. They're all in different things, right? Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go with 4 #1 seeds, but at the same time, if you look at history, like you usually want to have at least 2 #1 seeds, definitely one. Like it's very rare for there to be no #1 seeds in the Final Four.
Right, but FSU's a 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Houston's a 2. So there you go. So who would be your other, like, you can maybe 5 other teams that you think maybe sleepers for Final Four, or a chance at least, maybe making a nice little run?
Yeah, I think Baylor's really interesting because if UNC, and assuming Baylor advances against their 16 seed, and then they face in round of 32, UNC is a tough matchup for Baylor. Again, if you don't have a lot of size and you're going against Carolina, that's going to be tough. And I think Baylor and Scott Drew are more afraid of that North Carolina matchup in the second round than potentially playing Purdue or Villanova in the Sweet 16, or maybe even whoever they play in the Elite 8. So I think that's a game that if Baylor gets by, that they're probably making the Final Four. If UNC can figure out a way to upset them, then I think that bracket is complete chaos, and you could see like 5 or 6 teams in that region making it.
So my wife went to Hartford. You're telling me Hartford really doesn't have a shot? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Go Hawks? No. Okay.
Are they? That's what they are, the Hawks?
I think so.
All right. So no, that's really helpful actually. So.
Oh, I have a narrative question. What happened with Kansas?
Yeah, Kansas is interesting. They had a really rough start to their conference play. They're, a solid Kansas team, but I don't think their pieces fit together well enough to make.
What's the spread? What's the spread in that game?
I can look.
Because that seems like another one where I would probably want to take Eastern Washington.
Yeah, Eastern Washington is also a pretty solid under the radar team. But as far as Kansas goes, I think it's one of those situations where Bill Self is such a great coach and he's getting the most out of this group. But when they run into a team with a lot of talent, I'm looking at Iowa in the Sweet 16. I just can't see them getting past that point.
Okay.
By the way, does Evan Mobley actually play? I haven't watched him play yet. Have you, what do you know about him? Does he actually play for SC or is he just at SC? I never know what happens with these guys.
Yeah, I know he plays. He's had, an interesting season, great games, some games where he's not, really existent. USC is interesting too. I mean, like I said, they're going to be in for a tough first round matchup, probably against Wichita State. But I think if they win, I actually think they match up pretty well against Kansas, and I could see them going on a Sweet 16 run. So this is all about matchups. USC has this transfer, Drew Peterson, who's a knockdown 3-point shooter. You look at him though, and you're a little worried because he's so skinny. But trust me, don't let your eyes deceive you. He's a good player.
Yeah, nice. So anybody else for the Final Four, and then let's talk about a little about who you like to win it the most. I mean, I think we got some of that idea from based on some of the things you said, but who do you like to win it the most? And then who do you think maybe has the best upside to win it all? And some other Final Four ideas other than the Baylor, Gonzaga, Florida State, Houston. You mentioned that the South bracket could get wild. Who would you, if it did, let's just say North Carolina was to upset Baylor, who would you see most likely to come out of that? Would you say North Carolina could ride it all the way to the Final Four, other than the fact that you go there, or would you jump over to one of these other guys on maybe the bottom side of the bracket?
Yeah, honestly, I would probably jump over to the bottom side. I think Texas Tech, Arkansas, and Ohio State are all capable of going to the Final Four, especially if they avoid Baylor. Texas Tech has had so many close games. When I'm picking teams in the NCAA tournament, especially to go on a run, I look for a couple things. One of them is, do they have talented or experienced, or both talented and experienced guards? So I want to look at mock drafts and see, do I see a guard, even if they're a second round pick, are they NBA material? And Texas Tech has 2 of those guys. So I look at them as a sleeper for sure.
I like it. There's another one I'm writing in. I'm getting a lot out of this one. How about another team other than Gonzaga and Houston that you could see cutting down the nets, winning it all?
It's a great question. I mean, Gonzaga just looks so dominant, and I feel like if this team was in any other region, they could definitely make the Final Four. But who knows? They're such a good shooting team that if they get hot against Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, the Iowa Hawkeyes are a team to look at. Luka Garza is talked about as the best player in the country. They're very experienced. They have a bunch of 3-point shooters. Defensively, they worry me a bit, but Gonzaga also has their moments where they have lapses on defense. So I could see that becoming a shootout. And at that point, you never know. But again, it's just really tough to fade Gonzaga, but I'd keep an eye on Iowa. Ohio State, I just don't know if they have the guard play and the athleticism to really make a run. I think Arkansas or Texas Tech even is a better shot in that region of making the Final Four. Tennessee, also a team to watch out for. They struggled. They really underperformed. They were supposed to be a top 10 team this year. They have 3 NBA draft picks, 2 top 10 picks probably. Wow. Keon Johnson, and I think the other one is Springer. And then they also have Pons, a big guy who's probably going to go late first round, second round. So that's a team that if they come together at the right time, they have more talent than anyone in the country. So that's dangerous. Illinois, though, is probably playing better than anyone right now. What worries me about them is that they don't have a lot of March experience. This is their first time in many years making the tournament. And I feel like it's really rare for a team to go from never making the tournament to winning it all. Right. But you never know. They have the pieces for sure. Their pick and roll with Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn is probably the best pick and roll duo in the country.
Right. Awesome stuff, man. Yeah, definitely. You're definitely well informed on this stuff. It's hard because I don't know enough to talk back with it, but it makes a lot of sense.
I was going to correct you about the Iowa guard play and remind you how good BJ Armstrong is from 3. So
I love that she's always goes back to the 80s guys.
And then the Les Jepson playing good interior defense.
I kind of like this Georgetown upset in the first round. That might actually be fun. All right. Anything else though that we haven't touched on before we get out of here? I think this is really good for people who haven't taken much of a look at a bracket. I've already got a whole bunch of things that I feel pretty good about just based on taking your knowledge. Anything else that we should tell people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I want to touch on one thing that Sheet said, how it's just there's so much variance this year. If you look at a team like Colgate, for example, go to their schedule and you'll notice something crazy, which is that they've played 4 teams all year. Some of these smaller conferences, some of the teams didn't even participate. So what happens is these schools will play like 2 or 3 games in a row against the same team and just play like 4 teams all year. So I think it's really tough to evaluate teams like Colgate when you're looking at their schedule and you're like, they only played against 4 opponents. Like, and a lot of these teams didn't play non-conference, which is usually a great way to gauge if these smaller schools can compete against bigger teams. So all in all, like this might be one of the toughest years to fill out a bracket. Last thing, did you guys hear about these replacement teams and what's going to happen if a team got COVID?
No.
Is Brandeis on the list?
No, but like, for example, Louisville is like the next team that would make it, they said. So like if any team has a COVID outbreak and they can't play, Louisville fills in. But what that means is, let's say Drexel is a 16 seed and they're playing Illinois and Drexel gets COVID.
Right.
Louisville fills in for that 16 seed.
Oh my goodness.
So that being said, this bracket could become a mess.
And they're probably like a 9 strength or something like that. Or
like people thought Louisville had made the tournament. Like they got screwed.
Right. Oh, that's crazy. That is really, really interesting. Well, definitely interesting to keep an eye on for that. Are the first games actually starting tonight? It's Tuesday now when we're recording this. Are the first games tonight?
Thursday, right?
But usually they do the play-ins.
Usually the play-ins are Wednesday and then it starts Thursday. But this year, I'm guessing because of COVID things, they're doing Thursday playing games, Friday, Saturday, the first 2 days of like the real first round.
Oh, they did. People are not getting that extra day off work to take off to go watch the games. Jesus. I used to be my favorite hobby. And then finally, when I was 21, I was so excited. I went there with all my friends. We'd sat at the bar all day watching all the games, which was really fun until it's like midnight and you realize you've probably had like 30 drinks. It's like, and the last game finally is over, but good times for sure. Should be a fun tournament. Thanks so much, Noah, for tuning in. Sheets, anything else, for Noah, or any thoughts on this before we get out of here?
No, now I gotta go find some action somewhere.
Seriously, Noah, if you have any smaller things, like send one my way. I'll fill out a bracket or not. Why not?
Yeah, for sure. The last team I'm going to mention is a team to look out for is BYU. I think they can go on a little bit of a run. So nice.
Well, nice job, Noah. Excellent analysis. Hopefully we'll have you back on for this or for other stuff in the future. This was really good. For Sheets and Noah, I'm Bobby saying good luck to everyone. And we hope you win your brackets as long as you're not in the same one as Noah, Sheets, or myself.
Have fun.